We know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just a place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger long. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just a place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger long. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie Beaches, Carolinian.
Did you notice when he wasn't here, we didn't have any trouble? Okay, we have a quorum. We can start. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we now have a quorum around the council table. We can start our business. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Through the chair, we now need a mover and a seconder to adjourn the closed session portion of the meeting and reconvene in open session.
Councillor Black, followed by Councillor Height. All in favor? Motion is carried. She's just typing that.
Okay. Thank you. And now we're moving on to the deputation section of the agenda. A reminder to the deputation, there is a strict 10-minute time limit, and Chair Wells will remind you when there is 1 minute remaining. As well, a reminder that the procedural bylaw prohibits any deputation from speaking or being disrespectful to council and/or staff. Through the chair, I would like to invite Ms. Leah Logan from Indwell to the podium to speak to her deputation respecting homelessness prevention program review implementation.
Thank you. Yes, so I am Leah Logan. I am the program manager for Hambleton Hall's Indwell's program here in Norfolk. And I came today to endorse the Social Services and Housing Division's proposal for the Homeless Prevention Coordinated Entry System. I know that Indwell is only a year old, actually, as of this week, to Haldeman, Norfolk County. But this also allows us to come to this meeting with no agenda, but to come also and just to give our support to the Housing Division's proposal to enhance the service coordination and to create a coordinated entry point for residents experiencing a housing issue. Unique to Indwell's program in Norfolk is our partnership with the Salvation Army, in which we provide 5 apartments and supports to clients of the county's emergency housing program. This past year of experience has demonstrated to us that this is a community full of dedicated, resilient, and adaptable community agencies, organizations, groups, and citizens. And yet it is clear that there is still a need to develop a system that would more accurately assist the most marginalized in our community. What we appreciate most about this coordinated entry system is that Indwell, as well as this county, knows that people are able to move forward with their lives if they are housed first. Like Indwell's model, this entry system will not only work to ensure that people are housed, but that they are able to stay housed with the support of housing support workers. This works twofold, as it also works to alleviate the burden on community agencies and organizations who are in a cyclical cycle of support to many clients in this community. This system also ensures that folks in need of the most support are identified by the use of an evidence-based evaluation tool. The tool, the SPDAT, not only identifies the acuity, which is the level of need of the client, but also what other areas of support are needed to keep the client housed. The fact that the tool can be used by any agency after training ensures reliability throughout the county. The intensity, the frequency, and the duration of the support provided would also be based on the assessment of need completed with each individual. We think that this is a great framework for making sure that those that need housing, that are the most marginalized, do get housed in the community. Right now, in our building, through the emergency housing program, we have calls weekly from clients, from organizations, from agencies, from families who are interested in the emergency housing or different housing options. And it's in that framework that we're referring them to the Salvation Army, to the Social Housing Division. And so, For us, one of the best elements of this proposal, this entry system, is that one point of contact for individuals in need of housing. It would relieve the burden of all agencies getting these calls, but also make sure that those clients are being referred to the services in terms of housing that are most meet their required need. While there would be one point of contact to this entry system, what I personally admire most is that the Housing Division has already heard the concerns of the community and addressed the need to develop a coordinated entry action team that would involve multiple agencies in a collaborative manner. So right now, with the current emergency housing program, we are seeing a great need for interagency planning. We have folks coming from the Salvation Army's detox, going to the crisis stabilization beds run through the CMHA, then coming to the emergency housing program fed through the Salvation Army, going back into treatment with Homes House, and then needing permanent housing support. Having a point of entry, a coordinated system with an action team would work in creating a collaborative system which would enhance the services for these clients and also decrease the burden on clients looking for housing and agencies working to support these clients as well. Ultimately, through participating in the emergency housing program, we have seen a need for a bit of change. Of the 27 folks that we have seen through the Hamilton Hall, 70% have been successfully housed or sent to a treatment center. 30% of those folks have not. We've seen that this demonstrates a gap in the program and maybe the complexity of the client as well. We're not seeing typical clients anymore. We're seeing complex, comorbid, and concurrent disorders with these folks that we are serving. And that means that we need to adapt programs and provide the level of support that is going to keep them housed and give them housing in the first place. So ultimately, by introducing this coordinated entry system, we believe that the programs will be operational, collaborative, and more efficient in providing the support and care clients need to be housed and to stay housed in this county. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. I'm sure there will be questions to follow. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Lee. Very well said. And I'm just wondering, have you read the public report that's on our agenda for this evening?
I have.
And what are your thoughts on that and the recommendations?
Between the two options?
Yes.
Yes. I think that the social housing division, I mean, they're already working in all other areas of the housing. They're doing the rent geared to income. They have a good grasp on all other housing programs. And so I think for them to be the ones to coordinate this, it makes the most sense because they have the most housing knowledge.
Well, I really appreciate that because I didn't know which way to go. And thank you for your level of expertise in advising me.
Not anytime.
Further questions? Councillor Oliver, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as you were answering Councillor Black's question, I was leafing through the org code report to try and find out, and you can answer it very quickly, how many of the beds that you have at the Hamilton Hall facility are made available to our emergency homeless shelter housing program?
We have 5 beds.
5 beds.
Of the 40 in our building.
Okay. And that's the maximum because all of your remaining apartments or accommodations are occupied by other clients?
Yes, they are.
Mm-hmm. And are you, as an organization, by any chance searching for other possible facilities or buildings in our county that would lend themselves to the kind of thing that you're doing at Hamilton Hall now?
That would definitely be a question I should divert to my supervisor, Daphne, who's also here, if that's okay for her to answer.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Daphne Prinzen, and I'm the program director for Indwell. We would love to do that, quite frankly. Our experience with the 5 has been a huge learning curve, and at first we were a little hesitant because they are with what we would consider permanent residents, and there's been some upheaval, but we've kind of settled that. Our concern is for the individuals who are currently in the hotel programs and the environments they're in. We've seen, like, we've had 70% success rate with our folks, and I believe the main reason is because our staff are able to provide additional support. Salvation Army does the best they can, but it's limited. And with the extent of the need of these folks, 1 or 2 visits a week is not enough. It's almost has to be daily just to check in to see what they're doing. So if we could potentially find another building or of such in the community that we could enhance and grow the support systems that we offer over and above the 5, it'd be awesome. But we really need to work really tightly with council and the community to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Columbus.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Inwell's been involved with a few other communities, I think Hamilton, Woodstock.
Yes, we have.
How does our existing program compare to what they offer as programming for housing?
In terms of permanent affordable, emergency?
Yes.
Yeah. So I would say the difference is, maybe Daphne, if you want to come up and help me with this too, but there is limited emergency housing in Woodstock. Hamilton would be different.
We are not part of the emergency housing in any of the other counties. This is a first for us. The level of need is as high as anywhere else. So this was kind of a pilot for us to see how successful it can be and how it works, but we're not part of that in any other community.
Okay, thank you.
Further? Seeing none, we thank you very much for your deputation.
Thank you.
Okay, council, where do we want to go? We'd like a mover. Mayor Lucas moved. Councillor Columbus has second that we receive deputation this information. All in favor? Motion is carried. Staff report, and that will be presented by?
Mr. Chair, I'll be presenting that report.
You're now on.
Mr. Chair and members of council, the purpose of staff report HSS 1726 is to obtain council approval to create a homelessness prevention team within the housing division by adding 8 permanent full-time positions to the staff complement. The first 4 positions, the program manager, intake diversion worker, and 2 housing support workers, would be recruited as soon as council approval is received. The other 4 positions, the program assistant, which would be added last, data analyst, emergency housing worker, and housing stability bank administrator would be added to the team in the next fiscal year beginning April 1st, 2018. This phased-in approach will allow us to work with our community partners to make this transition and ensure that all costs associated with this change in service delivery model are covered from our Provincial Community Homelessness Prevention Initiative, or CHIPPE funding. This team will be providing essential services to our community by assessing the needs and providing support to those who are homeless or at imminent risk of homelessness. The direct service delivery model being proposed by staff will ensure consistent customer service excellence and that the needs of the community are being met in a timely, equitable, and professional manner. Additionally, as the service system manager for housing and homelessness, direct delivery of homelessness prevention services ensures that we meet our programmatic and financial accountabilities to the Ministry of Housing for the CHIPPE program, provides opportunities for us to move forward with human services integration with our other social services programs, and gives us the resources to be able to respond to future provincial directions and funding opportunities. Staff thanks Council for their support in undertaking a review of our CHIPPE-funded programs. As indicated in the staff report, the consulting services of Org Code Consulting, Inc. were procured to undertake the CHIPPE program review to ensure that we were meeting the needs of our community and that we were meeting our accountabilities under the CHIPPE program guidelines. The consultant's report, which is included in the current staff report as an appendix, was presented to the advisory committee in the fall of 2016 and then to Norfolk Council at its November 15th, 2016 meeting, where it was approved and staff were given direction to continue working with the consultant on an implementation plan. The main focus of the consultant's report was the recommendation to implement a coordinated entry system for homelessness programming. A coordinated entry system means that there is a single point of access to services and supports for someone who is experiencing homelessness or is at risk of homelessness. From there, an evidence-based assessment tool is used to determine the person's level of need and the most appropriate service. When at all possible, the person is diverted from emergency housing due to a plan to prevent the homelessness from occurring. Throughout the coordinated entry system, supports are available to assist people in obtaining appropriate, safe, and affordable housing and to retain that housing, preventing further homelessness. The system is based in the Housing First philosophy, which states that housing is a basic human right and that people receive the supports they need to remain stably housed within the dignity and safety of their home. Housing First is a world-renowned best practice for addressing and ending homelessness. As the CMSM, we are provincially mandated to deliver homelessness programs and services from a Housing First perspective. The benefits of a coordinated entry system for homelessness prevention services are many. A single point of access makes it easier for vulnerable people to receive service and ensure consistency in service. The system is based on preventing homelessness as a first priority. The supports within the system ensure that people are able to retain their housing, which prevents people from cycling through homelessness. The use of an evidence-based assessment ensures that the people in greatest need are receiving assistance first. Staff have been engaged in communicating with existing agency partners through the entire CHIPPY program review and implementation process. In fact, feedback from agency partners resoundingly supports the implementation of a coordinated entry system. Furthermore, existing agency partners offered the suggestion that the coordinated system would best work within the service manager to ensure consistent and appropriate service. This has been a transparent process with all existing service partners, and we have ensured their suggestions, comments, and recommendations are incorporated into the coordinated entry system. The staff report presents two options for Council's consideration to implement the coordinated entry system for homelessness prevention: direct service delivery by the Social Housing Division and the procurement of a third-party service delivery partner using an RFP process. Staff have very carefully considered both options and strongly recommend option 1, direct service delivery, for the following reasons. The Housing Division, as the Consolidated Municipal Services Manager, is responsible through the Housing Services Act to deliver a system of housing and homelessness services using a Housing First approach. Direct service delivery ensures that services are provided in a manner that is consistent with the Housing First philosophy. The service manager will ensure that services are delivered with a housing focus and not tied to a particular service orientation or mandate. The service manager will ensure consistency in customer service excellence, timely response to community needs, and equity of service across both counties. Direct service delivery allows the service manager to further explore human services integration with our colleagues in public health, children's services, and the Ontario Works program to provide a more holistic and seamless approach to service provision for vulnerable people. It will be easier for people experiencing homelessness to access the other programs already offered by the Housing Division, including the centralized waiting list for social housing, housing allowances, and rent supplements. These are all programs that assist with housing affordability and stability. Cross-training of staff within the Housing Division increases the capacity of the division to respond to community needs. And finally, direct service delivery puts the service manager in a better position to monitor program outcomes and costs and fulfill our accountabilities to the Ministry of Housing for the CHIPPY funds received. Staff recognize that there are significant costs associated with the addition of 8 full-time equivalents to the Housing Division. We have carefully examined the CHIPPY spending for this current year and the allocation for the 2018-19 fiscal year. By transitioning from third-party service delivery and by phasing in the recruitment of the new positions, staff are completely confident that all costs associated with the coordinated entry system can be covered using our provincial CHIPPY allocation. Staff are not asking for municipal levy funding to implement the coordinated entry system or to directly deliver the service. The province has notified us of our CHIPPY allocation for the next 2 years, and we are aware that we will be receiving a funding increase in each of those years. This additional funding will cover the costs associated with any increase in salaries and benefits of the new staff positions. Staff are very aware that homelessness programming is 100% provincially funded and are committed to staying within the provincial CHIPI funding envelope. Should there come a point in time where the costs cannot be accommodated within the CHIPI funding, then the service delivery model will be re-examined and adjustments will be made, including the reduction in staff if necessary, in order to stay within the provincial funding envelope for Haldimand and Norfolk counties. Staff appreciate that this report and the recommendations contained within represent a major shift in the delivery of homelessness prevention programming in Haldimand and Norfolk counties. Respectfully, this is a shift that needs to happen in order for the service manager to meet its responsibilities and accountabilities as the housing and homelessness service system manager. But most importantly, it is a shift that needs to happen in order to better serve the community and to end homelessness. Thank you, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brunton, you are first, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And what I'm going to ask some questions on, if I may, is the budget, Heidi, through the chairman, if I may, and that is the 2018-19 budget for this CHIPI program is 1.489 million, roughly, 1.4?
Yes.
We'll call it 1.5. How's that?
Yes, Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Brenton, that is correct.
Okay, what you provided here is, it shows 7 full-time equivalents, and you mentioned there would be 8, though. Now, where does that extra person fit in? An administrator you referred to?
Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Brenton, we are proposing the addition of an eighth FTE, which would be a program assistant, which is an administrative assistant for the team. That position, as I mentioned in my presentation, would be added last so that we can determine whether it's a full-time or potentially a part-time. And we would accommodate that within the CHIPI budget by making adjustments. So there would be no additional cost for that position over and above the 1.5 million that we receive from the province.
But that person would be the administrator, and you say at 0.8?
Mr. Chair, that eighth position is a program assistant, which is the same as an administrative assistant.
But it's 1 full-time equivalent.
Mr. Chair, at maximum 1 full-time equivalent.
Okay, so the reason I asked that, I've come up with a total full-time equivalent based on the budget right now of 566,000. So another administrator or full-time person, we're looking at, and I'll get to this in a minute, but I would assume a salary range around 100 grand or between 80 and 100?
Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Brunton, no, we're not talking about a manager. We're talking about an administrative assistant. I couldn't give you a costing, but I would estimate that it would be potentially half of what you're thinking, maybe a little bit more than that.
Okay, well then my next question would be, I look at the salaries you have projected for these, I'll call it the 7 people that you've identified, and that adds up to about 566,000. So the 900, I'll use a figure of 900,000 plus, that is going to provide the service, aside from the staffing, what exactly does that go to?
So
Housing?
Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Brunton, that goes to the emergency housing where people actually stay. It goes to payments from our rent and utilities bank for last month's rent, rent arrears, utility hookups. It also goes to our housing with related supports, which is our domiciliary hostels.
And you feel there's adequate housing out there to utilize the 900,000? Because if I remember right, you mentioned that the problem we've had is we didn't spend the funds previously, correct?
So, Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Brunton, we have had some issues with underspending in this program for a variety of reasons. Through a coordinated entry system, first of all, we will be able to better identify what the specific needs of the people are, which perhaps historically we have not been able to do that. A coordinated entry system allows us to do that. And as I mentioned in my presentation, having the housing division administer the coordinated housing system means that it would be easier for us to capitalize on other affordable housing programs that we already offer, like rent geared to income housing, like housing allowances, like rent supplements that will increase the affordability of housing for people who are using our homelessness prevention programming.
Okay, and on this same sheet I'm looking at, you show $160,000 to Indwell. And is that part of our deal with Indwell that we, the long-term, I call it the maintenance or the 10-year, was it 10-year program we provide those funds? Or is it over on the, under the emergency shelter shows Hamilton Hall? Isn't that the same place?
So, Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Brunton, the financial listing that is under the emergency shelter program is the partnership with the Salvation Army that Hamilton Hall has for the 5 beds. So that is the per night cost for people to stay in those beds. And the per night cost that we have at Hamilton Hall is cheaper than what we pay for the motels. So that is not new funding. It's simply funding that has been shifted. Instead of paying for the motels, the nightly fee is paid for the beds at Hamilton Hall. The agreement is the support agreement. That is the 10-year agreement that council has entered into.
And that's the 160,000?
That's correct.
Okay, for 10 years, am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so the 145 is for 5 beds at the same location, though? That's an extra cost over and above the agreement we signed with Indwell, am I correct?
Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Brunton, that's correct. That is the nightly cost for people to stay in those beds instead of staying in the motel.
And what is that cost per night or whatever?
Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Brunton, it's right around $70 a night.
Per bed?
Yes, that's correct.
And is that, like, I haven't divided that out or anything, but does that utilize those beds through 365 days out of the year?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it does.
And you have no problem of filling them, I guess, is what you're saying?
Mr. Chair, we do not. And in fact, we are, in previous CHIPI reports, staff has shared that over the last few years, we have had great difficulty finding motel rooms. We just can't access them. And so we have really had no choice but to look in other locations for beds for our emergency housing clients. And the 5 beds at Hamilton Hall, as Leah said, not only are they more cost effective for us, but there's better support for the clients that stay there.
Okay, and that, all right, $70, and we only pay that if the beds are used, correct?
Mr. Chair, we do block funding, but the beds are used all the time. So we're essentially, we are not paying for vacant beds.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The speakers list is as follows: Councillor Black, Councillor Columbus, Councillor Sonnenberg, Councillor Oliver, and Councillor Height. Just so if I don't get to you, you know you're on the list.
Okay, Mr.
Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Heidi. Thank you for your comprehensive report. Very extensive and I think a long time coming. Just wondered about the one comment in the report about the office space and equipment, that too has been accounted for in the funding. But I'm just wondering if that funding also includes paying Norfolk County some rent for the office space.
So, Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Black, the staff positions that are being requested are funded through the program dollars of the CHIPI because they are people who are providing direct service to clients. Through the CHIPI, the municipality can retain up to 10% of the total funding envelope for administration. So that would go to offset, for example, part of my salary because I don't provide direct service to clients. It also would go to pay for office space, telephones, computers, any other administrative costs that are required to run the CHIPI programs.
And is there enough allocated for that purpose?
Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Black, yes. We have costed it out and are completely confident that we can deliver this program in-house and stay within the CHIPI funding envelope.
Okay, and the offices will be located where? At Gilbertson? Do we have 8 offices, empty offices up there?
So, Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Black, we do have to provide service across both counties. So we are currently looking at the setup of our office space at Gilbertson. These positions won't have traditional offices because most of the time will be working out in the community directly with people in need. So they will have workstations where they can check in, where they can check their voicemail, check their email, and then they would go out onto the road. So we anticipate that at least to start, the home base would be at Gilbertson, but we would also be making use of our office in Dunville on Forest Street.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Columbus, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This proposal will be taking some responsibility away from partner agencies. So some of these agencies have been offering after-hours service for the homeless. So how will that continue with being able to be taken in-house by staff? How do you envision that will continue to service these homeless individuals?
So, Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Columbus, we are committed that there would be no break-in service to our community and that there would be no reduction in service to our community. So we would look at how those after-hours services are currently being offered and enter into an agreement to be able to continue to offer those after-hour services, because our primary current delivery partner currently only operates during regular business hours. So there is another agency that offers the after-hours support.
Thank you. Councillor Sonnenberg, please.
Mr. Chair, how do we keep bringing in new programs, hiring more people, spending more money? Do you see a light at the end of the tunnel? How are we doing in the battle against homelessness? Are we winning, losing, holding our own? Is there hope out there to end the problem?
Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Sonnenberg, I think that in the next year, we, as mandated by the Ministry of Housing, we are going to be undertaking our first homelessness enumeration. And one of the positions that is being proposed under the coordinated entry system, the data analyst, will play a fundamental role in that project. And for the very first time, we will have a by name list of everyone in Haldimand and Norfolk counties who is either homeless or at imminent risk of homelessness. That gives us our best starting point. And we have not had that in the past. Part of the reason is because rural homelessness is so hidden that we're not a large urban center that operates a shelter system where we can do a point-in-time count and say how many people are staying at the shelters in the shelter system tonight. So we have to go out onto the streets and interview people to see if they have a place to stay. We have to walk the trails and see if we can locate people who are camping. So it's more labor intensive for us to get that starting count. And then from there, we will be able to more accurately measure our progress. The other
thing that there are a number of things about this that I'm really excited about moving forward, but the fact that we would be focusing on diversion from our emergency shelter system and actually preventing people's homelessness to begin with, I think we'll see better outcomes for people. And the fact that we're working from a housing first philosophy where wraparound supports are provided to people within the dignity and safety of their own home so that we can see people's lives improving because they have the support that they need in order to retain their housing.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Heidi, for your report. I have several questions. The existing third-party partner agencies and organizations that are implementing this program for us now, I presume they have FTEs that are working on the delivery of these services on our behalf now. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, that's correct.
And do you have any idea how many there are that would be equivalent to the kind of positions we're creating or contemplating creating in-house?
Mr. Chair, we currently fund 4.4
Okay.
FTEs in various partner agencies.
So that's good. I didn't see that in the report that we have here in front of us, but I thought that was important. You did reference in response to Councillor Brunton, the program assistant position would be the last one filled, and maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but filled if needed, I guess, and that may or may not be known at this point or only until we get to that point. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, that's correct. The reason why we would wait to fill that position last is because we don't know what level of workload there would be for that administrative assistant and what the impact is going to be on our current administrative assistant.
So my next question related to that would be if council were to potentially approve the other 7 positions, but reserve judgment, so to speak, on that 8th. In other words, requiring staff to come back to council for a further report to justify creating that 8th position. How much of a hardship would that create for you?
Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Oliver, I would be fine with that.
Okay. And my final question at this point, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure whether to direct it to Marlene Miranda or to James Johnson, our corporate manager, but I see in 2 different spots in Heidi's report, and she certainly verbalized it this afternoon as well, where staff are convinced that all of this program can be implemented within our existing provincial funding, and there will be no levy dollars required should we decide to proceed with this. And then I read on the halfway down page 29, and this is financial services comments, essentially says the same thing, but it does then say this will be monitored, and in the event shortfall becomes evident, a subsequent report will be provided to council for consideration. I guess I'm a little concerned. We've had discussion at operating budget time over the last 2 or 3 years about some of our what should be 100% provincially funded program. Over time, municipal subsidization, if you like, creeps into it to the point where it might be, instead of a 100% program, it's a 90% program, and we're putting in the remaining 10%. Someone needs to assure me or tell me how we're going to ensure that that will not happen, either Marlene or James or
Actually, the county manager wishes to handle that.
I think a fair answer and statement would be the department involved provided all the analysis and is utterly certain this can be done within the funding envelope currently available, and no levy dollars will be asked for. The finance department independently, another part of your corporation, has reviewed it and also come to the same conclusion. The sentence that Councillor Oliver points to was meant to be reassuring, but as staff, we'd like to be very happy to suggest to council that if you are considering this option, you would be most welcome to add in your approvals or to any motion that these jobs are to only continue if they continue to receive 100% provincial funding, and any deviation from that must instantly trigger a staff report or words to that effect. We are extremely confident from 2 separate analyses that what we say to you is absolutely correct, and we would be very happy to be held accountable and to be required by motion of council to come to you the second there was even 1 penny of levy dollars provided. And if that can offer some greater comfort or assurance, we would be most happy to receive that instruction.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, David, as well. That's fine, and we may very well decide to do that as part of our motion. I guess what I would not want to see happen, in a sense, is that the funding dollars, and again, going back to Councillor Brunton's line of questioning to you as to how much is available for the actual delivery of housing to the needy, not needy, but to the clients that need our support. We don't want to see that part of the pie depleted in any way in order to support increased costs for staffing. And so it would be my hope and perhaps my expectation that on an annual basis, we would receive some kind of report from staff on this program that says the relative proportion of the 1.4 or 1.5 million or whatever it is that we start off with when we create these new positions, that the percentage of that pie that is going to actually delivering the service, providing the service to the clients versus the portion of the pie that's funding these positions isn't going to change. And I'm sorry I didn't say that any more clearly, but it's easy to say, and with greatest respect to the county manager, easy to say it'll all be within the CHIPPY program, but if we end up 4 or 5 years from now spending $900,000 on positions and $500,000 on the service delivery to the clients, we've failed. And I think everybody feels that way. So somehow or another, I'd like that kind of assurance, Mr. Chair, built into this approval so that we can ensure as council, or future ones can, that that same proportion is staying there and our needy people in the community are getting that service. Thank you.
Thank you. I think they heard you very clearly. Councillor Height.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Heidi. Heidi, in your report here, I didn't catch it if it is in here. Are these contract or full-time employees you're looking for?
Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Height, these are permanent full-time employees. Permanent full-time employees.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, also, you would have to cancel the current agreement with the provider right now. Do you know, would they be liable for severance packages for their current employees? Because obviously they won't need them anymore.
Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Height, I don't believe that I could answer that question on behalf of our partner, but I would answer the question by saying that we would follow the language that is in our service delivery contract with all of our partners if the service delivery partnership is changing.
So we're not sure if we're on the hook for that extra amount. My concern is we cancel the program and then we end up having to pay for the program for the next year or next 16, 18 months to roll out these severance packages, and really we're paying way more.
So, Mr. Chair, my apologies, just to clarify, we would not be canceling any agreements. All of our agreements are set to end March 31st, 2018, and the phased-in approach that staff are proposing takes that into consideration. So the final changeover would be when the full homelessness prevention team was in place, April 1st, 2018. So the contracts will come to their natural end.
Okay, thank you for that. I guess one of my last concern with this program is that 90% of the respondents in your package said that it's affordable housing that they're having a problem with. It's not that we have 500 people out on the streets. We have very few. There's 5% for emergency shelter, 5% for mental wellness concerns. But for the most part, it's affordable housing, and I get those calls quite often in my area looking for rental programs. So I'm really hesitant to spend $1.5 million to hire a whole bunch of staff to tell us that all we have is unaffordable apartments for rent, where we could just give them chits of $250 a month to help them pay their rent, because that's basically what their problem is right now. So how can you justify hiring all these people and people still won't be able to find affordable housing?
So, Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Height, our affordable housing programs and our CHIPPY programs, our homelessness programs, they work together, but they don't, and they overlap, but the programs that we deliver through the affordable housing program that are funded by the federal and provincial governments, we can't replicate under the CHIPPY. So in the affordable housing program, we work to create new affordable housing either through new construction or through housing allowances, which are those, as you stated, $250 a month top up so that people can live in private market rent and be more affordable. Under the CHIPPY program, a housing allowance is not permitted under the provincial program guidelines. So, because it's funded through the affordable housing program. So regardless of whether we deliver the coordinated entry system in-house or through a service delivery partner, we are not permitted under the CHIPPY program guidelines to use homelessness funding to create housing allowances, because that is an affordable housing program. So just to provide that clarification. The purpose of the staff positions are to stabilize people's housing in a variety of ways. It could be by supporting people to locate affordable housing either through our existing affordable housing programs or through a housing allowance. It could be by supporting people to identify other housing options, whether it's through with family or with friends, or by finding roommates in order to assist their affordability. It's also to provide support for those other life issues and vulnerabilities that impact people's ability to retain their housing. So that could be multi-generational poverty, it could be disability, it could be mental illness, it could be addiction, it could be a physical or developmental disability. And without those supports that are provided by the staff on the homelessness prevention team, that's where we see people cycling through homelessness. So it is a complex issue, and you're absolutely correct. Housing affordability is a key component of it, but there are multiple facets to it that if we don't address all of the issues in a coordinated way, people continue to experience homelessness.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brunton, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to speak again. And a couple of things come to my mind after listening to the other speakers, and my one is somewhat related to, excuse me, Councillor Oliver's concerns about where these things go. And no disrespect, but when I see the budget every year, it's for the whole department. It's like stepping through a minefield at times. I find it difficult to follow without getting blown up. But anyways, these positions and the salaries for all these positions, Heidi, have they been, are they established already on some form of grid within the union? Or are they going to be new positions that have to be negotiated in with these rates?
Mr. Chair, through to Councillor Brunton, we have done an initial analysis with our colleagues in finance and in human resources to come up with the salaries and benefit amounts that you see before you. And the amounts that are listed are what we have determined would be the maximum amounts. So they are new positions, and they would have to go through a rating process. But in working with our colleagues in finance and in human resources, I have a high degree of comfort in the financial information that you've seen.
Okay, but so these salaries, would they be on like a graduated scale though, on some form of a grid where each year they move up or with experience, et cetera, et cetera? So,
Mr. Chair, through to Councillor Brunton, yes, but the information that you have been provided is the highest level on the grid.
so they may start at a much lower salary.
That's correct.
Okay. And you mentioned also that you know your funding from CHIPPY for 2 years hence, meaning next year and the year after?
That's correct. So this current year that we are in, we have 1.3 million. Then for 2018-19, we